welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Indiana's own Dana Black, Turn Left. Welcome back to another episode. Yes, I went away for a little while, but I'm back. Yes, I got a little sun. I'm happy about that. But it's not about me. It's about all these wonderful candidates I get to talk to. So today, we are going to talk to Michele Henry, who is running for Indiana House District 72. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so glad you're here. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Sure. So my name is Michele Henry. I live in Georgetown, Indiana. I'm running for House District 72, which is most of Floyd County, but not quite all of it. But we are all within Floyd County, which is kind of nice. I have been in Georgetown for about 25 years. I'm a civil rights lawyer, and I practice primarily in the area of employment law, civil rights and employment. And I also do a little bit of work with other organizations as well, like on nonprofits and that sort of thing on a pro bono basis that support democracy and civil rights in their own work. So that's kind of what I do. I did not plan to run for office. This never was on my bucket list. But, you know, there's that saying, if you ask a woman 7 times to run for office, it's the 7th or 8th, she'll finally say yes. And so that's kind of where I was this year. I'd been asked before and had always declined. But I think at this point, you know, things are different this year, and I just felt like I needed to do more to support democracy in our country and to be able to say to my grandchildren that, you know, I didn't just sit and watch this era go by without taking action. So wow, that's why I'm here.
I am excited to start asking you questions. Oh, my goodness. First and foremost, what was there something in your young life that made you want to become a lawyer, and then more specifically, civil rights?
So not really. I was raised in a working class family. My dad was an enlisted Navy for 20 years. My mom stayed home with us largely because my dad was at sea a lot, and she would pick up part-time jobs when, you know, money was tight, those sorts of things. Neither of them had a college education, but they were very clear that they wanted us to go to college. They also were incapable of paying it. So fortunately, I'm old enough that I lived in the era where you could work a few jobs over the summer and actually pay for college. And so I was able to do that. But no, I really had this like very normal childhood. I really didn't, I feel probably pretty sheltered, honestly. Mm-hmm. But then I joined the workplace, and at my very first job, my first job was babysitting when I was real young, but my first job working as a counter person, a clerk at the 7-Eleven, I had a boss who was a groper, frankly, to the women who worked there. We were all very young women, frankly. And that didn't change. Once I finished college, I got a professional degree. I have a master's in psychology. I was working in training and development and human resources. And I continued even, you know, in those professional jobs to have colleagues who treated me differently because I was a woman. And so I had always sort of thought about being a lawyer, but that experience, even as the HR person, you know, the HR manager, I was still being harassed. And so I left my job and went to law school. And I always knew I was going to be an employment lawyer. It was the only thing I really wanted to do. And that's all I have done since I graduated.
Wow. We could definitely use some of your insights in the State House, because apparently, you know, the right to work in Indiana is the right to work for less.
That's right. That is what it is.
Yeah, we need people that can actually have a sense of what working folks need. So tell me, when you think about civil rights, and I understand how for you it was, wait a minute, why am I being treated differently as a woman? Did you see parallels in other demographics as well when you were?
Oh.
Yeah.
Of course. Right. So, yeah, I mean, at the same time, you know, as the HR person, of course, you get those kinds of complaints and have to take some action. And so, you know, I received complaints from other folks, people of color, people with disabilities, that sort of thing. And so, yeah, there's, you know, the women this is not unique to women. We see discrimination and harassment across all categories. And, you know, a lot of those categories, frankly, aren't protected, but there are, you know, that handful that are. And so in the legal practice, I take all of those kinds of cases. And, we do see trends in different times. I'll be honest, I think that race discrimination is becoming more of a problem. Again, I think there was a period of time where that was less so. I was getting a lot more calls on like disability a few years ago. And now we're seeing more of the race again. So, and gender, frankly, still.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there definitely are trends, there are changes, but we, it's been a long time since those laws were passed, and we are still, I still have far more calls than I could possibly take.
How do you manage to, and I know it's a skill, how do you manage to separate the emotion? Because listen, I know what I'm good at. And putting me in a boardroom with this personality just ain't gonna work, right? I'm too animated. I'm too emotional. I don't have a stone face, right? I can never play poker, basically.
Same.
How do you manage? Because I know some of these issues just irritate your soul. How do you manage to keep it professional and keep the business and then deal with your personal side of it or how you felt about it later? How are you able to manage that?
So poorly, frankly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I understand that in some rooms I have been described as a true believer in civil rights and employment rights and union rights. And I think that's a compliment. Like that doesn't bother me at all. Like I am. I believe that we should treat people well. I think we owe that duty to our neighbors, to our friends, to our family, to our workers. I do. And so I do get pretty invested in my cases. I'm really not standoffish. Like I want my clients to get that kind of, the justice they deserve. And I don't take cases that I don't think have merit. And once I've taken them, I'm committed to the end. So that is really hard. And again, like I just am not very good at it. It's not a business to me.
I love that because see, I'm passionate, right? Yeah. I am passionate about electing Democrats who are going to write good policy. The first time I talked to Mike Shmuel on the phone, I'm sure he was like, I don't ever want to talk to that lady ever again. Because I don't play because our lives are at stake. And when I think about, the Supreme Court ruling just recently that is literally stripping our voting rights away, that's why I'm passionate about it. When you heard that ruling come down, tell me what went through your head. I gotta know. What were your thoughts?
Just anger. I mean, it's just so wrong, there's a saying, the Supreme Court isn't last because they're right because they're last. I mean, there's just nowhere to go, right? So it's just a wrong ruling, and I think it is. I mean, honestly, just disgusting. Like we know that that law especially is still needed because what did the states turn around and do the next day, right?
The next day, right?
So we know it, right? We know that state governments in certain states want to eliminate minority majority districts. We know that they want to keep people of color from voting. And, when you lump in the SAVE Act, we know that they also really ultimately want to keep women from voting as well. So I think it was a terrible decision. And I mean, honestly, if I saw Chief Justice Roberts on the street, I would have to ask him how he sleeps at night and how he can justify this legacy.
Yeah, and he's been doing this for decades now. He's been trying to dismantle the Voting Rights Act for decades. People don't even realize that.
Yep. Long before he was on the Supreme Court.
Right. And it's like, why? Why don't you think people behave tribally and that and when they tribalize that they may be discriminatory? Why do you think that's not true? But I believe that's that white supremacy thing that rearing its ugly head.
That's right.
How long you said you've been in Indiana for 25 years?
I have.
Yeah. What made you choose Indiana as your home?
So I went to school in Virginia, and frankly, my husband got a job here.
Okay.
We were pretty flexible, on where we went. And so he had some offers in a few different places. Some of them were in very cold places. And I said, no, you can take that job, but I'm not going to live there. So this was a happy medium for us. We spent a fair amount of time. My husband's from Michigan. I had lived in Michigan for about 15 years. And so we still had family there. And so this was a good temperature place and also a good distance from the family. And so it really was that. But ultimately, we just came to love the area, and I just can't imagine living anywhere else now.
Yeah, tell us what you love about Indiana, and even where you live. Tell us.
Yeah, so I mean, Georgetown's great. When we first moved here, I think we had one blinking light. And now we're actually like a town-ish, a town light. We have restaurants, we have more neighborhoods, we have more people moving in, which brings good and bad, of course. Like some of our infrastructure hasn't kept up, but it's, I think, great to have additional diversity in our town. I love that. I love that there are more entertainment options in the town instead of having to go, to New Albany or to Louisville. But Floyd County is fantastic. When we first moved here, New Albany wasn't that built up yet either. And now, you don't have to cross the river to do anything. You can do almost everything you want to do right here. We have great local shopping. We have great locally owned restaurants. We have the Greenway that allow for exercise and getting out and you see tons of people on it, biking and running and all of those sorts of things. It's just the schools are very good. It's just a really nice place to live and raise a family, and we couldn't be happier with our choice.
The cool thing is I can see the joy on your face when you're telling us about where you live and why you love it. But we've seen, the State House. They are doing everything they can. I feel like Republicans are doing everything they can to take that happy space that you have created for you and your family and turn it into a trash can.
I know.
Tell us why you decided to put your name on the ballot.
Well, I mean, I think that Floyd County and the people who live in Floyd County are not MAGA people. Like this is a very moderate district. We have a really good mix of Republicans, Democrats, people across all parts of the spectrum, but it certainly isn't a deep red Trump supporting district. And so and I think that I reflect those values. I think that as opposed to, frankly, my Republican opponent, in that I do think that while I might have some more liberal ideas on certain topics, I do think that my values reflect our community's values. And that's why I think that I will be a good representative. Beyond that, I care about these people. I care about my community. I want people here to be successful. I want them to be able to raise their families without having to work 2 or 3 jobs. I want them to not feel like they need to leave Indiana in order to have a child, for example, which, there are women who are leaving Indiana because they want to have children. And we want people to stay here. We don't want that brain drain. We want our communities to support young families with good paying jobs, good quality healthcare, good public schools. And all of that starts at the State House. So that's why I'm running.
I love it. And you mentioned families. We're recording this the beginning of June, which is Pride Month. And our governor decided to make it nuclear family. Nuclear family day. But when the things that you just mentioned, if they really cared about the nuclear family, they wouldn't be trying to dismantle public education.
That's right.
Talk to us about what your philosophy is about protecting public education.
Sure. So my kids, my husband and I both went to public schools, public colleges. Both of our children are graduates of the Floyd County Public Schools, K through 12. They had fantastic experience. They both went on to be successful in college and careers. And so we love our public schools, and most people in this community do. We really do. They're good schools. They have good teachers who care about their students, good administration, and so we need to support that, and we need to support that financially. So we are continuously losing money to the Indiana Voucher Program, which has now expanded to include people of all income levels. And so, regardless of whether you think vouchers are appropriate or not appropriate, I frankly have some concerns about them in terms of like a separation of church and state argument, which I realize has already been litigated. But in any case, we now allow somebody making $2, $3, $4 million a year or more to get a taxpayer-funded voucher to send their child to private school. There's a whole lot of people in this community who are making $15, $18 an hour, and now some of their tax money goes to the wealthiest in our country or in our state. for private schools. These are folks who, even with the voucher program, could not afford to send their child to a private school.
Right.
So I just think that's wrong. There's no reason for a hardworking person in our community to be funding a millionaire's child's private education.
I agree 100%. Another aspect of our, his nuclear family would be healthcare. And we're seeing in many counties there are healthcare deserts. Talk to us about your vision about how you see Hoosiers and the need for healthcare.
Sure. So, I mean, you're right. There are healthcare deserts, and we talk about, in particular, women's health, which is really important to me. That if you are pregnant in Indiana, and you live in a rural county, you likely don't have a labor and delivery unit in your county. And almost half of our hospitals don't have an obstetrician on staff now. So, we want people to come here. We want people to live here and raise families, but we don't even have the means to start a family, and then you add to that our incredibly restrictive abortion laws. And if you have any health concern, there's a real risk that you might die in a hospital parking lot. And I don't think that's hyperbole at this point. We've seen it happen. So I think that, all of those things are problematic from just like that one little area of healthcare, right? Just having a baby. But we also know that many people in our state cannot afford insurance, even on the marketplace. They can't afford it. They can't afford to see the doctor if they don't have health insurance, or sometimes even if they do, if the copays are high enough or the medication they need is too expensive, they're not able to get it. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than picking up a prescription at CVS and seeing the person in front of you, an older person on a fixed income, find out how much their medication costs and say they're going to come back in a week to pick it up, or it's just heartbreaking. Yeah. And so we do need to make changes. Now, healthcare is it's a big issue, right? Like, what are we going to do about it? Obviously, for me, the clear answer to me is Medicare for all. That's a pretty progressive position on it. I don't think we're going to get there in the next few years, but obviously that is what we need. That is what every other developed nation does, right? We're the only one that doesn't. And so tying your ability to get healthcare to where you work is just a ridiculous system, right? So should somebody who works at a small company that doesn't offer healthcare or has a not so great plan that has really high deductibles, does their child deserve less health care for the exact same condition that somebody working, in a company that provides the Cadillac of healthcare plans? Of course not. Of course not. Right. That's not how we make decisions about how we treat people. But yet that is where we are right now. And so obviously we have to make changes. It is a national conversation on how we do that. And I think probably broader than something that we could do here. But certainly Indiana could help with subsidies for marketplace plans for Indiana residents. There are some options that we could do to help people in this weird patchwork system that we have.
Yeah, it's real frustrating. And I imagine for a lot of your rural constituents, they are truly finding it hard. We just talked about education and healthcare and healthcare deserts, but rural Indiana is really getting hit hard with the tariffs that are hurting farmers, with all the things that are happening. When you're out talking to the community, again, I understand rural Indiana is different than Indianapolis. So I want to, I get it. There's 15 hospitals within, very close to me. Yeah. But when you're talking to constituents from rural Indiana and they are telling you what is going on in their lives, how are you able to thread the needle about, listen, if you want these things changed, stop voting for these people?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's kind of what I say, right? Like, we've had 20 years of Republican rule. If you are not doing better than you were 20 years ago, if you're not doing better than your parents, maybe it's time to rethink how we vote and give someone else a chance, Yeah. So that, I mean, I do just say that, right? Like, I think that's a fair thing to say. I'll be honest, like, again, I'm fairly passionate and I'm also not great with a filter. So I tend to not thread the needle on it. I just say it. But I do think it's reasonable, right? Like, if you're a voter, you should be thinking, is my life better? Is my quality of life better? Is my standard of living better? What has happened in the last 15 to 20 years to me and my family? And are those issues, is the fact that I'm now having trouble paying for healthcare, paying for food, paying for gas? I mean, what is the base for that? Like, why did that happen? And we know a lot of that is because of Republican politics.
Yeah.
I think that with the exception of a handful of Republicans, including the current incumbent in this seat, Representative Ed Clare, I think a lot of other Republicans have really put following Trump, in lockstep ahead of thinking about their constituents. And we have to stop that.
Yeah, Ed Clare. I was thinking Ed Soliday, because Ed Soliday is the on the energy committee, and he's the one that's putting. But you're talking about Ed Clare. We don't. Yeah. What? Well, I'm not even going to ask that. So, when you think about election night and you've won this election and now you are in the State House, what is the first piece of legislation that you want to either partner with? Right, because you get to. I think this is a. This is a budget year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So you only get I think 5 bills that you get to introduce. What's the first one you writing?
I don't know. So I have just been thinking about that a lot, and so every time something new comes up, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to make that my first bill.
Right.
But there's a couple of things that I do feel really passionately about. One of them is, in my primary, I had another opponent, a really smart, passionate woman who signed up, was all set, had gone to Indianapolis, filled out all the paperwork, everything was good to go. And she was told by her employer that if she ran for office, they would fire her.
Wow.
And Indiana doesn't have a rule against that. Some states do, but Indiana does not. And so, and she was heartbroken by that. And she really wanted to run. She has great ideas. She's helping me on my campaign now, which I'm delighted by. But that's just unfair. And so, if we don't want to end public participation in politics, right? And I don't think a private employer should be allowed to do that. So that's one thing that I have thought about is introducing that legislation that, like I said, exists in other states. There's also, I do a lot of employment law litigation. I have had so many cases lately where people were misclassified as independent contractors instead of employees, which then allows an employer to not pay their share of employment taxes, to require that employee to provide, certain tools or equipment and things that really an employer should provide, or to not offer health care because you're an independent contractor, not an employee, which then, leaves more people out. And these are just regular jobs. We're not talking about Uber drivers or anything like that. That's a whole separate.
The gig economy. Yeah,
the gig economy is kind of a separate, how do we figure that out with independent contractors? But I'm talking about just regular businesses, stores that you go into, restaurants you go into, those sorts of places that are simply misclassifying people in a way to save themselves money, but it puts that burden on the employee. And so, and there's just not, we have laws against it, sort of. I mean, we do, but they're not written in a way that allows a clean piece of litigation for a court to just assess and make a decision. So we have to bring those kind of claims under, kind of like fit them into other types of claims and stuff. And I think that needs to be clearer.
Oh my gosh, those are two amazing. I'm gonna tell you something. Those are very new. I've not heard anyone talk about the ability to run for office and not letting a private employer dictate whether or not you can be civically engaged as being a candidate, and the thought of employers now cheating people by misclassifying them. How many more ways can we say we don't really care about the human?
Oh, there's so many.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you excite me because, I love the fact that you're an attorney. My sister is also an attorney. She's a judge, and she at one point somebody was trying to pass legislation to make it so that only attorneys could run for office. And I was like, nah, that's a terrible idea.
That is a terrible idea.
But I tell you what, I wish I could get you and Ed Delaney in a room together on a committee together and let y'all go at it with some of the policies that they are introducing. Because I tell you what, I have always loved people who are unafraid to display their passion. Obviously, because look at me, I can't help myself. But I tell you what, I would enjoy watching Session when you get there and you're able to argue for or against and make your case for a piece of legislation, because I think you got it. Like you know how some people care about dogs and some people.
I also care very much about dogs.
I mean, I like them. I won't own one, but I like them, right? But I have a passion about people, and I believe you have that same passion, because you wouldn't go into civil rights law and then put your name on the ballot if you did not care about people.
Yeah.
And as a parting shot for this episode, tell us, how did that passion grow inside you? I mean, there had to be, was there a pivotal moment in your life? Was there, I mean, I know we talked about, the groper, right?
Right.
But you could have been self-centered. You could have been self-centered.
Yeah, I guess but that isn't how I was raised. And so, my parents didn't say, we want you to be a lawyer, or we want you to be this or that, or, they just wanted us to go to college, but they didn't try to pressure us into any kind of career or anything along those lines. But I will say that they did teach us how we treat other people. And, every person in this community and in our country, and whether they're here under any kind of status, deserves dignity and respect and compassion. And that is what my parents taught me. So I believe wholeheartedly in that. I think that when we as a government takes actions that harm people with the intent of harming, we are behaving very badly, and it's not acceptable. And that is what our government is doing now. And so, it just can't be tolerated. And so, I'll give my parents credit for that. But I believe, and I think most Democrats do. I believe that we owe it to our neighbors, our friends, our community members to make sure to take action to ensure that they also are living the best lives they can, that they have the things they need to raise their family, or if they chose not to have a family, to just, enjoy their life without it being just hard every day. And there's a lot of people who are waking up every day and are just, the day is hard. And we need to take better care of them.
I love that. Man. Okay. Give us your elevator pitch.
Sure. So my name is Michele Henry. I'm running for House District 72. I've been a civil rights lawyer for about 25 years. And frankly, I think that our government has forgotten that their job is to make our lives better, not make corporations richer. And that's why I'm running for office.
I love it. All right. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, of course. So you can find me on my website is Michele 472. That's Michele. I only have one L, 4 the number. And then Michele Henry for District 72 on Facebook. And I still call it Twitter, but I guess it's X now.
Yeah, it's X. I mean, I'm sure Malcolm loves the fact that the racist South African apartheid loving joker is using anyway. We're not going. This was a great conversation. I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much.
So here's the thing. I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
All right. Win, lose, or draw. Well, win or lose, right? Will you please stay active in all things Indiana Democratic politics? Will you please?
Yeah.
You have a fire and a passion. Have you done Who's Your Women Forward yet?
No.
Okay. So you may not have the time to do it while you're campaigning, because the application period is open until June 6th. But
okay.
That being said,
it's busy. We're busy.
You're busy right now. But next season, they usually open up in May and then close in June. Next season, I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot because I believe, not only will you gain some things from working with the women of Who's Your Women Forward, but the women of Who's Your Women Forward are going to gain so much from you. And I think you are an absolute great candidate for that program. So if you next year, you're busy right now, but next year I truly want you to apply for Who's Your Women Forward. I think you were. I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna hound you wow.
I'm easy to find. I don't hide.
I love that. I love that. Listen, you have been absolutely fantastic to chat with. I really wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Let me know how I could reach out to me if you need anything, right?
I sure will. Absolutely.
I can't donate to everybody, but
That's
I sure
okay.
can help. Speaking of donating, y'all, thank you so much. Indiana's own Dana Black. Listen, I am fired up by Michele Henry. I'm fired up. I need you to be fired up. I want you to be so fired up that I want you to click that donate link. Yes, yes, yes. She's going to need funds. She's going to need money to be competitive, right? And we want her to win. So please, no, if you don't have a whole lot, that's fine. Can you be a $5 a month recurring donor? Can you be a $10 monthly recurring donor? Whatever you can give, because she's going to need that money to reach her voters. And to reach her voters, she's going to need to buy supplies for her volunteers, right? She's going to need to send out mailers. She's going to need to do all these things to touch her constituents in order for her to win. That's why we raise money. All right. So listen, help Michele out. Click her donate link. I promise you, she gets in there. Can you see her and Ed Delaney together? Oh my God. It would be so fantastic. It would be fireworks. It would be absolute gold. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Indiana's own Dana Black. I will holler at y'all next time. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions, executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by Dorian and 22 from Pixabay.